Good morning, everyone, and welcome. If you have not been here, we're doing a series called Ready to Go. So we just wanted to start January off and start this new year, sort of looking at the things that we're getting ready for as a church. And as a church, we're always getting ready for something. We're wanting to be ready for the Lord and for whatever He calls us into. So our first week, just a wee recap, was the 2nd of January, and we just had a time where we were just had gratitude and worship. And then last week, as Andy said, Paul was here with us and he just talked to us about faithful stewarding and what that looks like and how we can be more ready to go when we're doing that. So this week is week 3 and we are talking about restoring dignity. And last week, Paul was talking about Matthew 25, the parable of the talents. And I'm just going to read verse 21, which is one of the verses that he read. His master replied, "Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness." So when we're faithful with the small things that God entrusts to us, when we receive that, when we steward it well for His purposes, then He gives us more. And another way of putting this really is obedience, isn't that right? If we think about what it is what the Christian life is all about, it's about stewarding well what we have received from Him. And as Paul had said last week, it starts when we realise that all of our stuff really doesn't belong to us, it belongs to Him. And that what has already been given to us, what already has been entrusted to us is from Him. Because He loves us and because we love Him. And when we start loving the poor from the place of loving our God and understanding that, then we know that we've entered this life of giving away. And so that's really what I'm talking about today. We are looking at what we're being called into 2022 as a church. So what is God calling us into outside of what we're used to at the moment as Antrim Vineyard? And so when Paul addressed us last week, he said, church is not just about this. And he meant about this on a Sunday morning. This is family time and it's great, but it's during the rest of the week when the rubber hits the road. That's where God is calling us to give of ourselves and over and above. And it was lovely last week. I have to say we really enjoyed it. Paul was here to help us celebrate the journey that Antrim Vineyard is on and where we've got to, which is really, really important. Sometimes Andy and I really need to hear that. From somewhere else, but he also reminded us about our mandate as a church, and he said, you are here because Andy and Andrea give their yes to Jesus, but who else is out there? Who is in the communities and the villages of this coastline that you haven't met yet? You're going to meet them, you're going to love them, you're going to say, come in and have a cup of tea. People will get healed up and set free and become empowered and envisioned for what God's called them to do, and you're a part of it. And I just think that was a really helpful reminder for us in Antrim Vineyard. And also it's so good to be reminded again that we need to keep remembering that there are people that haven't yet met Jesus, and we all need to hear that. Will people meet Jesus by us recording these talks and putting them on YouTube? They might, but I'm guessing that's not just what we're called for. We love Sundays, we love this, we love family, and we love worshipping together. We love this gathering, we love having coffee, but that is not all that we're called into. That is not what church is on its own. And I was reminded of something that we had said on the very first night of planting the church, which was in October 2018. Seems like a lifetime ago now. And I couldn't remember exactly, but I do remember saying something like, if we're just here, if we're only ever going to exist to be the church for these 4 walls, then we may as well just stop now. Just shut up shop and go home, which probably some people were really a bit shocked at. But what we were trying to say was, it's not just about this. It's not just about coming on a Sunday or a Wednesday night, which was the case then. So a lot of you have joined us in these last 6 months, and I'm wondering what your experience of church up till now is. If you have any, you might not have a lot of church experience, and that's okay. But in our years or our months or whatever spent in and around church, like what can we see what is shifting in our life? and what is shifting in the lives of others that we come into contact with because of our love and devotion for Jesus, because of our relationship with him. And can I just really kindly say that no matter how much time we spend in church, it has little value in comparison to time spent being the church, and that's who we are, and that is who Jesus has called us to be. We are the church, as we sang this morning. I love the way Rick just manages to choose exactly the right worship. It's wonderful, but it's God, it's not Rick, sorry Rick. And it's, it's that listening ear though that Rick has for the Lord. That's what that is, because I'm doing one thing, who's doing another. We may or have a couple of messages about it, but it's the listening for God that's really important, and that's how God joins all the dots for us, which is so amazing. So there's maybe a wee question you want to ask yourself today. Is our own experience, or our experience right now, or the last year or whatever, is that experience of church changing us, and is it changing the culture around us? And how are we going to do that? How do we shift culture? And we've talked a lot in this church about the life of try. So we listen to God, we discern what is he asking of us, we cast vision, and then we try. So we take a step out, we pray, and we keep trying. Now, it's not about striving or stressing, but rather it's about keeping faithful in that thing that he is asking of us. We keep showing up until God says that's enough now, or this is the next thing. And so I suppose for us as a Vineyard church, we talk a lot about our compassion, the compassion side of what we do. And compassion is a huge part of any Vineyard church. And if you look at our website, you'll see a couple of wee things. As it says, as a compassionate church, we share our resources to care for others and lift them from poverty and injustice. And it also says the Vineyard movement is committed to loving our communities and spending the power of God in helping the poor and those on the margins of society. So Andy has already done a really great talk on compassion in our Who Do We Think We Are series, which we had done really from the end of August. So I'm not going to sort of go over all of that, but it is on our YouTube channel if you want to listen back. And he called it the lost, the last and the least. And that really does explain a lot about why we look at compassion the way that we do, but it is not rocket science, and there isn't really an awful lot to it except what is already in the Bible. And I think it is really helpful to read the words of Jesus himself, and this follows on immediately actually from the parable that Paul read to us last week, which is the parable of the talents. So this is Matthew 25:31-40. When the Son of Man comes in his glory and all the angels with him, he will sit on his glorious throne. All the nations will be gathered before him, and he will separate the people one from another as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. He will put the sheep on his right and the goats on his left. Then the Father will say to those on the right, "Come, you who are blessed by my Father, take your inheritance, the kingdom prepared for you since the creation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you came to visit me." Then the righteous will answer him, "Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink? When did we see you a stranger and invite you in, or needing clothes and clothe you? When did we see you sick or in prison and go to visit you?" The king will reply, "Truly I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me." And I think it's that last bit, isn't it? Whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me. And so this causes me to reflect, what have we been doing for the least of these? And some of you might not know too much about our church, what we've sort of been doing over the last wee while. And I just wanted to quickly just go over it so that you know, in terms of our compassion, our sort of working outside of church, what we've been doing. Giving nights for the Foodbank, and that was the very first thing that we started off with. Our very first giving night for Lauren Foodbank was the 5th of December 2018. And this was our little bags that we had collected. And we did that right at the start. We wanted to just start as we meant to go on. We wanted to be giving away. And so we had spoken to the Foodbank and we had said that we would do giving nights on the Wednesday nights that we met together. And then we did several giveaways on the streets of our community. I think we did a few in Larne, we did one in Glenorm, and we were in Ballygally as well. And we were just giving away at different times of the year. We've also partnered with ROC, which is an organisation called Redeeming Our Communities, with the Foodbank, as I said, and other organisations such as Stand By Me, Women's Aid, Disaster Emergencies Committee, and all of those things. Since the start of the pandemic, we've given out more than 260 care bundles, and those are breakfast bundles, new mum care bundles, and men's winter care bundles. And about 100 of these were letterbox bundles through the lockdown. So 95% of those were posted through Royal Mail to other people, so that we could reach women who were having a really difficult time during the lockdown. And we also did one to thank our homeschoolers, and that was just to say, we see you. We know that homeschooling is difficult and it's been really tough. So even when we couldn't do much in terms of, we couldn't meet anywhere, we couldn't be together in any way, shape or form, we were still able to ask God, what do you want us to do, Lord? We were still able to order things into the house. We were still able to go to the post office and post those things. And through social media, we were able to organise who needed those things the most and send them. And then in January 21, when it became apparent, and I know a lot of people have talked about this recently, that we were entering another sort of lockdown, stress levels were high, mood levels were plummeting. And so we made it a priority as a church that every single woman that was connected to this church at that time received like a de-stress care pack in the post. And there was a pillow spray and a shower gel. And I can't remember what else was in it, but it was just to say, we see you, we care for you. And we have also, as a church, helped difficult families, or families in difficult circumstances, and we've done that right since the start. Just before this Christmas, we helped a couple of different families. One needed baby items, and that included bedding and things like that. We've helped another family with grocery parcels. We've topped up electric and gas cards for another family. And this isn't just what we do, this is who we are. And these costs can only be met through the financial contributions of the church family. Paul talked, as Andy's already said, about paying a salary last week, which is really, really important. But it's much more than that. When we're given to church, we believe as well as a church that we give away, that we tithe. And Mark has said that in the last financial year, our church has given away not 10% but 18% of our income to meet the needs of other organisations who are helping others to fight poverty and injustice, and that's in ways that we can't help with as a church. So isn't it so amazing that we are so much bigger than just us, than just the church? We're so much greater than ourselves. We started small when we first planted, but we started. But Paul said last week, when we are faithful with the small, God gives us more. And just wanted to have a little look at this slide here, because for Antrim Coast Vineyard, compassion is not just about remembering the poor. Compassion means meeting people's needs, and it means giving dignity, which is slightly different. So dignity in the dictionary means proper respect or regard for one's character. And there's this wonderful verse in 1 Samuel 2 verse 8, which I really love. God puts poor people on their feet again. He rekindles burned out lives with fresh hope, restoring dignity and respect to their lives. And we want today to cast a little bit of vision around this. We've got 2 compassion projects that we really want to share with you this morning, 2 ministries that we're really keen to get off the ground in 2022. And I'm going to ask Davy and Barbara to come up, and they're going to talk about our vision for Restart.
So really this is we want to share the vision of where we see Antrim Vineyard for this year and the years going forward. And it's the Antrim Coast Vineyard Job Club. It's somewhere where we will be able to assist individuals who are looking for jobs, who are currently unemployed or have just found themselves unemployed with the COVID, etc. We want to empower those people give them confidence to sort of go into interviews. We want to be able to give them the information they need, and by doing that we will allow them to practice their interview skills. We will help them build their CVs. Anything else, Mark? You go first.
Just going by what Andrea said about dignity and respect and bringing them back to that level that they can hold their heads high walking down the street. We also run the CAP programme, which is involved in helping people come out of poverty, build their lives up, budget for the future, and they do run a job club, but we're just not there yet. We're not, it's a really, CAP Job Club's a big deal, it's the employed people, it's a big deal. So we thought, well, what can we do in the meantime? Because we're still building a church, we're still small, but does that mean we sit and hold our hands together and do nothing until we get there? So we've come up with the ACV Job Club, and basically is, we look at the skills of what we have in the room. There's an awful lot of intelligent people here that don't realise what they can give to people. We want to bring people in, we want to help them with their CV, because I don't know about you, but if I haven't been interviewed in years, and if I was to go for a job now, I'd be like, I don't know. So it's to help people put back. I mean, the COVID thing has been a situation where people have left work, lost their jobs without any fault of their own. But there's also people who've never worked in their lives. Does that mean they don't get the chance to come up into the prosperity level with everybody else? So we decided, right, if we can do the interview skills and help them on their way, because there's a lot of technique in interview skills. There's a lot of keywords for, if you read the advertisement, what's the keywords, what's the buzzwords, this is what you need to say, and put the people in the right direction. But then we thought, right, we get them to the interview. What if they haven't had money for years? Do they have something to wear to the interview? Could we provide them with a suit, skirt, shirt, something to make them look respectable going? Now we have sourced a company. He actually lends people for 24 hours an interview outfit, but they have to give it back again. So we don't know if it works here. So we were thinking, well, Davey and I had the privilege of both, I don't know what to say, early retirement. So we had clothes. You know, I wouldn't be wearing my work clothes every day around the streets, or you've got that many suits that, you know. So what do we do with them? There's people out there could use them. There's people there who are going for an interview and thinking, I have nothing to wear. Not supply them an outfit to go to work with? And even simple things like, do they need their hair cut? If you haven't worked for a while, you're not worried about your outlook or what you look like. So it's just that I wrote this bit down. I'll read it because I don't remember it. Our job club could run with the church, with the facilities that we have, with the skills that we have within our church people, our church family, that we can then empower people to get back into the job world, to raise their dignity. And that's the main thing, we're doing it with dignity. You know, there is job clubs out there, but our emphasis is on the dignity. People are in situations where they didn't intend to be in or didn't want to be in, and that's where we come along, that we can stand behind them and we can get them back into the job work with dignity and purpose.
Thanks. Listen, so if you've got clothes that you no longer wear, you're too small for, too big for, whatever. I was trying to be diplomatic there. It has been Christmas after all. So don't you throw them out. You know, we will start collecting them. If they could be clean, that'd be great. We'll start banking them and taking photographs of them, taking sizes of them, so we know what we'll have, and just building up a bit of a reserve of clothing for those individuals who may or may not be able to use them. We really see this as a community thing, a church community thing. It's not just part of myself, it's everybody on board. The skill set in this church is phenomenal. From writing CVs to doing interview techniques to just building confidence in an individual, getting a haircut, just even body language when you go to do an interview. Body language is very, very important. It's allowing those individuals to practice that by doing like role play through interview techniques and just seeing how they look. We could even film them so they can practice it. You know, there's loads of things that we can do. Yeah, we are part of the the Camp Club, and the Camp Club do something very like this. It's an 8-week training course, but there's a time commitment, there's an employment commitment almost, because you have to employ somebody for 8 hours a week, and we're not there yet. There is a financial thing where we would need to pay CAP for their sort of backup and support, but in the meantime we can be doing this. So I would really encourage you to think of how you can get involved in this. It's all together here. It's not just any one or two individuals. Everybody on board. You've all got loads of good ideas. I'm sure we can take this forward in this year.
Thank you guys, that's amazing. So good, and just that what Barbara was emphasising there, this is about dignity. It's more than helping people out with practical things, which is really good, and I'm not trying to take away from that, but we want to really empower people to live well and live better and be able to provide for them and their families. You know, we know in the news that we hear that so many families that need the food bank don't go, and they can't go because they feel ashamed and they feel guilty, and there's so much surrounding unemployment and poverty. So what we're thinking and what we're putting to you all this morning is how can we just be a little small part of that, a little chink in the chain that could really, really make the difference for some people, for some families. So thank you, Davy and Barbara, for sharing for that. And this is just about, we don't have a timeline. We're wanting to put this out there today just to get everybody thinking and praying about what this could look like. And then the second compassion project that I wanted to just mention today is called Refresh. So Refresh is giving dignity in personal care, and it is something that we can do, and it's something that I have personally been thinking about for quite a long time. So if a family is referred to a food bank, they can get deodorant, and they can usually get shower gel, but that's sort of where it stops there. And what we're thinking in terms of Refresh is that we have a stock, that we have a place where people can come, not necessarily via referral, although absolutely we'll take referrals, but they can just turn up. We will give them a bag, and we will have a stock of items that they can take. So that will include other items. So for men, that will include shaving gel, razors. If the winter care packs that we had put together contained those things. They contained a moisturiser, it contained an aftershave balm, all sorts of different things that you can't just go and pick up at the food bank in that way. And for the same for women, we want that women can come and they can get a face scrub, they can get a lip balm, they can get a nail varnish, they can feel that there is dignity for them in these things, that they're not having to go and beg somewhere for them or miss out on those things, that they can come here and get a hairbrush and hair bubbles and just things that many of us would just have as our normal day to day. So that is our vision, that people can come here, they can take a wee bag and they can just take the things that they need. And again, for women as well, shaving gel, razors, sanitary care, all of those things. So that is really it in a nutshell. We can do this with what we have here. Obviously, on a bigger scale, we would need more space. We'd need a different premises. So we just trust God for both of these things. But what we have here now is enough for these things, and we do have room to keep a stock of these things. And what we are thinking then of is speaking to people locally. We want to speak to the food bank in Larne and explain to them this is our vision. We want to partner with them. We want those families to be able to, sent down here so that they can get other things and give them that dignity and personal care. And we've already partnered with Period Equality NI, and I know that they would then provide us with sanitary products and things like that. We would want to get in touch with our local chemists and explain to them what we're doing. Is there surplus items that they can give us? Is there some way that they can help us? But I know that with the generosity of the community that we can probably raise a lot of these things, and we would just then be keeping a small stock of everything that we need. And both of these compassion ideas are just, they're like little dreams, I think. Oh, sorry, going the wrong way. They're little dreams of what we think God is sort of pointing us in the right direction. And it is, as I said, it's about dignity. So I wonder, could we just be, as I said, there's no timeline. but I wonder, could we be thinking about these things? I'm not sure what you think of them already, but we want to say yes to the Lord. We want to say yes. We want to go for these things. We don't want to be sitting here on our hands waiting for the church to get slightly bigger, waiting until we maybe have a wee bit more space, waiting for, I don't know, someone else to come up with the idea or a different idea. You know, we want to be part. And these are our values for our church, if you don't know. Dream, create, grow and give. All of that is on our website, and please have a look at it if you're not familiar with it. And our dream value is this: we are a family who dreams together. We believe God has a beautiful dream for the Antrim coast area, and we look to partner with him in bringing that dream alive by demonstrating the extraordinary love of Jesus through our everyday lives. And our prayer is that through these compassion projects and anything else that God asks us to partner in with him, that people meet Jesus. You know, if we become Jesus' hands and his feet, we get to become part of God's beautiful dream for the Antrim coast area. I mean, we can preach and pray, which is really important, about extending God's kingdom. And we can talk about salvation and revival all day long. So did Jesus. But if we don't do the things that Jesus taught us to do, that he did, as well as teach on them, then I don't know if we're going to see the sort of transformations and the things that we dream about. You know, God really does work through us. That's why we're here. I heard Alan Scott say this a few weeks ago, and I thought it was really good. And he said the mission is raising up believers who bring life everywhere they go, who release the kingdom everywhere they go, who plant the kingdom on every street, in every family, every community where they are. And that's the key thing. Where are you? Where are we? You know, we don't have to be... I remember when I was younger, it was very much about being a missionary and going away and leaving the place that you call home. But we know that God has called us to be home for people. And so it's really important that we recognise the community that we're part of, and we take a little bit of ownership over that. And we love Lauren, and we talk about it all the time, and Ballygally, Glenorm and everywhere else around here. And we want to be proud of our town and our landscape. And we want to be able to say to the Lord, we're part of this. We want to see transformation across this island and this little part of Ireland. You know, we want to see God's kingdom extending. And, you know, planting the church was just the start of the planting. We started small at ACV, but we started, and we've been faithfully sowing tiny seeds, believing that we've been listening to God and obeying him. And even by being here, last week Paul talked a bit about Andy and I's sacrifice to leave our town and our home, and I'm thinking, like, it's only up the road, but it is true what he said. You know, we felt that we were being obedient, but we're not the only ones. So I know some of you that are sitting here have taken some kind of risks to be here this morning. Maybe you've left somewhere else to be here. Maybe you've had difficult conversations with your family to be here. Perhaps you're here, but your spouse isn't really that keen on it. You know, maybe your friends have even disapproved. Maybe someone said to you, oh, I don't know about that vineyard, you know, and all of this kind of thing, you know. So this morning, please know that all the while that you have been faithfully planting seeds just by being here. You know, we sing that lovely Vineyard song, all things sown in weakness, the Lord raises in promise. Really beautiful words. I think they're from Isaiah. You know, we're building a legacy. There will be a return on the investment of whatever that we are faithfully stewarding to God. But it's not always easy. It takes time. Shauna Nyquist, she's a writer, she has this wee quote, nothing good gets built when everything is easy. And that's true, isn't it? It's not easy. You know, it's not easy to be like, put my hand up and say, I want to help you with that, Barbara, or I can do that. Or, you know, I've helped my friends write a CV before, maybe I can help you with that. You know, and the best part of all of this is that we're not on our own, that we do it together as a family. Last week, Paul said, there's more for us here. We're labouring together in partnership with Jesus to make room for another. So I guess the question maybe today as we finish up this morning is, what is our part in the labouring? Are we happy to leave it to other people? Or are we praying? Are we considering it ourselves before the Lord? Like, Lord, what is my next step? God, what are you asking of me? so that I can make room for someone else. And that's what it's about. That's what our church is about, making room for other people in every way that we can possibly think of. So why don't we maybe pray together? If you want to stand with me, that would be great. And I hope this morning that you feel motivated and feel a little bit caught up in some of the dreams that we have for Antrim Coast Vineyard. And so let's just take just a quiet moment before God. And Lord, what are you asking of us this morning? And it's not just about through church. What is the Lord asking of each of us in our family, on our street, in our home, in our workplace? How can we help to make room for someone else in our lives? And Lord, I just pray for courage this morning. I just pray, Lord, that you would help us to be brave, that you would help us to answer this call, Lord, that we would not be afraid or worried or ashamed or embarrassed or any of those things. That, Lord, I just pray that we would each know that what we have is significant because you have already given us those things, Lord. This morning, Lord, how can we be part of what you're doing? And I just feel some people this morning need to know that their contribution is meaningful, that they have something to give. And also the Lord has probably burdened some of you very, very specifically through those verses we read earlier. For I was hungry and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger and you invited me in. I needed clothes and you clothed me. I was sick and you looked after me. I was in prison and you came to visit me. Lord, may those words be written into our hearts this morning. We just say, come and have your way with us, Holy Spirit.